Tatiana Kukhareva, a journalist based there in Moscow. Before the break, we were talking about Moscow's stance on what is happening right now, and you said that the Russian president maintains a peacekeeping force is heading its way through to eastern Ukraine. Break down the latest, pick up where you left off.
Right. Thank you, Benita. As I was saying, we're not talking about an invasion. We haven't been so far. We're talking about roughly 4 million people in constant danger, in constant violence, and dying under Ukrainian shells and Ukrainian missiles. Right now, as we speak, on the one hand, there's France, Germany, and Ukraine who said that they're ready for new talks in Normandy format, and yet Ukraine is pulling rocket launchers to that separation line. So there's a very mixed messages, and you can understand that 4 million people living in constant fear and dying from the hands of what was once their own government is not a good situation. And that's what we're talking about.
Now, talking about the mixed messages, Russia's parliament has already given the Kremlin formal permission to send troops into what it's calling foreign territory. What exactly does that mean? What is being made of that in terms of public sentiment over what Moscow wants to do right now? How is that being perceived there?
Well, of course, it's foreign territory because the two republics, we were never talking about any inclusion of the two republics into the Russian Federation. If you remember back in 2014, when they voted for independence, they never once talked about rejoining Russia like it was the case with Crimea. They simply wanted a secession from Kiev. Kiev that was at the time ruled by a nationalist government that was making it very clear that Russian-speaking population and 80% of those regions is speaking Russian and considers Russian as their native language. That population was second-rate. Their language was no longer state language, and they just did not want to have anything to do with that government. Speaking of, how it's perceived back here in Moscow, I believe that the polls that were taken straight after the announcement by the president that were recognizing the republics, they were overwhelmingly positive.
Talk to us a little bit, though, about what is being perceived by many as false flag reporting, that incidents are being fabricated to be a pretext for an invasion. Obviously, getting reports out of Ukraine and Moscow are very difficult to confirm. Talk to us about those allegations, false flag reports.
Well, that's the allegations that were coming in from Western media even before this whole situation unfolded. Our Ukrainian colleagues are very vocal and vocally accusing Russia of literally having boots on Ukrainian ground, although not presenting any proof for all 8 years that we've been faced with this situation. There was never any proof of any sort of invasion, any sort of Russian boots on Ukrainian soil. However, there are constant proof of violence. I mean, on Monday, I do believe that everybody's heard about this and we've reported on this extensively. On Monday, a Russian missile hit a Russian border point. There are pictures, there are people, journalists reporting from Donbass on the ground, live, and you can see those pictures.
We're also hearing about pictures, Tatiana. There are also satellite pictures. We're hearing about troops being amassed along the border. We're hearing about different exercises happening.
Satellite pictures.
It's a lie?
Satellite pictures of Russian. That's not a lie, but there are satellite pictures of Russian troops on Russian bases.
There are not troops amassed along the borders. There are not troops amassed in recent weeks, up to 120,000 reports. That's being denied. It's not happening. What are those troops doing there?
We're talking about our troops on our bases and on our territory, not aggressing anybody, not shooting anything. There are also drills very officially announced, and they are very efficiently carried out.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting to watch to see the various evidence and proof and satellite pictures like you're talking about on either side. No doubt these will continue to emerge. The last question for you, Tatiana. Moscow is promising to deliver a strong response to the latest sanctions from the West. Vladimir Putin had to know sanctions out of Europe and the US were likely. What is his response expected to entail, especially when it's described as being serious for Washington? Tell us more.
Well, look, obviously, there's only one response to sanctions. It's sanctions from our side. And I do believe that's exactly what the president means. The latest, if you remember the sanctions that were put on Europe and on the US by Russia, even back when, after the Crimean referendum and the Crimean secession from Ukraine and rejoining Russian Federation. And those were quite serious sanctions. We've seen since, that still farmers all across Europe are still protesting those sanctions. Businesses are still calling for those sanctions, for Europe to remove their sanctions so that Russia can in turn remove its sanctions. So the only response that is possible towards economic sanctions is economic sanctions. And we'll have to wait and see just what those sanctions are. But if we know anything about the Russian president, that he doesn't joke around when he says that something is serious, then it's going to be serious. You've seen this. He wanted peace in eastern Ukraine, and he wanted peace on our border. He's made his move.
We certainly will be watching to see how developments unfold. And again, we will be speaking to people both in eastern Ukraine and in Moscow for the latest developments and perceptions. We appreciate you speaking to us. Journalist Tatiana Kukhareva, live from Moscow. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.